Good evening. I'm Rose Kuo, the Executive Director of the Film Society of Lincoln Center. Thank you for coming to tonight's screening of Holy Motors. We are excited to welcome back a filmmaker who has been here many times to the Film Society at the New York Film Festival with his films Boy Meets Girl, Mauvais Sang, Les Amants de Pont-Neuf, Paula Eeks, and of course last week he debuted this film, Holy Motors, to a full audience, and tonight we're very excited to welcome him here to introduce the film. Ladies and gentlemen, Leos Carax.
It's a simple film. I see it a bit like a science fiction film. So like in all science fiction films, it's about reality. I see it, as about the experience of being alive today. So if you have any questions after the film, it's okay because I won't be there to answer them. Good night.
Leos has quite a long history with us. All of his films have been in the New York Film Festival. Boy Meets Girl, Paula Eeks, Les Amants de Pont-Neuf. Tokyo was not. So welcome to the Film Society of Lincoln Center. And I was telling Leos when we were outside that actually my 11-year-old son has seen this movie. He convinced me that he should see it. And to my surprise, he loved the movie, and it's one of his favorite films of the year. And there's something about this movie that really appeals to a child's imagination. And one of the things he asked me right after he saw the movie was he didn't quite understand what it was about, but he thought that the whole viewing of it is a mystery, and that's what it's supposed to be. It's the process of discovery and wondering, and that's what the experience is. So maybe I thought you could tell me a little bit about where this movie comes from.
It's not clear to me because it's never clear to me anyway, but especially for this one because it was I was had many projects and I couldn't make them, and these projects were bigger projects. They were not in French, not in France. And since I couldn't make them, I hadn't made only one film in 20 years, I suddenly decided to forget these projects and to imagine something that I could do very soon, very fast.
Make it louder, please.
Oh, sorry. And that's what happened. I imagined this world, which is kind of science fiction world, but not very different from ours. And I basically invented a job that doesn't exist, which is Mr. Oscar's job, going from life to life in this limousine. So it was a world where I could show in one day maybe the whole experience of being alive today.
What's your process for coming up with a film like this? I know you sketch out. I've read somewhere that you sketch out a little bit, and sometimes even the early things you shoot, you maybe discard or reshoot or rethink as time goes by. Can you talk a little bit about that process?
Well, it's changed a lot. When I was working on film, I shot much longer. This was shot in 9 or 10 weeks. I used to shoot 3 or 4 or 5 times that. And usually I would remake or change everything. I would do a lot of remakes. And I would edit during the shoot. And I would watch the dailies. And on this film, since I started digital with a little film I did in Tokyo 3 years ago, I do it very differently. I don't watch any dailies. I try not to make any remake. I don't edit while I shoot because I don't want to watch anything. I think if I start to watch, I will either remake everything or stop the film. So it's like the film is like a tunnel I have to go through, and that's I'm able to go fast. And it's not what I like to do, but it's the only way for me to make a film today.
Has this process changed? I know you had a long collaboration with Escoffier, your cinematographer who's since passed away, and you've talked about the process of when you used to work in film, and now the digital process completely changed. And there's a scene in the movie actually that refers to this whole process.
I think probably because we had such Jean-Yves Escoffier. We had, I met him when I was 20. We made 3 films in the 80s. Then we separated. We got angry, and then he died. So it was maybe easier for me to stop making films on film, which is what I like. That's how I started. That's why. Because in a way, if I don't have Jean-Yves, it's so much work to work on film. If I don't have this complicity with someone, I'd rather do digital.
Sometimes as in film programming, you see things echo in different films. We had, for example, 3 films at the New York Film Festival about coming of age, but curiously, there are 2 films this year set in limousines, because David Cronenberg's Cosmopolis and your film. Can you talk a little bit about the white limousine?
I saw them first in America, maybe 15 years ago. Then I saw them come to Paris. In my neighborhood, I live in a Chinese neighborhood. Chinese people do their weddings in these limousines, and I thought it was strange because they're quite more like coffins. So they're erotic and they're morbid. Right away, I thought I would like to film one day and see what happens. It's a strange world because it's. They want to be seen, but at the same time, you can't see inside them. And then what is the role that people play inside these limousines? They pretend to be someone. They pretend to be, playing glory or fame or power or money, I don't know. So I thought I could have someone play different parts in this virtual world inside these limousines.
I love the music in the film, actually, and I'm curious, and so varied, and I know you've got an obscure piece in there, everything from Dr. L, the accordion scene, etc. I'm just curious how you go. What's your approach to the music? Does it start before you conceive of the film as you're going along, or is it something you think about afterwards?
It can go many different ways. I would have liked to have a life in music. That's, I think, my biggest regret. I think a life in music is the most beautiful life. You can travel with your music. You can sing or play or compose any place in the world. But music didn't like me, so. It's not that I'm not sure cinema likes me, but I was able to bluff people when I was young in believing I could make films. And I do feel it's my place, it's my country, cinema. So it depends with music. I would love to make a film that would be that would be music, and maybe I'll do it someday. But sometimes a song gives me the idea for a scene. Sometimes it comes later. I've always put music in my films. It's I need it.
Can you talk a little bit about your long-time collaboration with Denis Lavant? He's been in everything but one of your films. You've actually talked about it a little bit before. I know you said that you're not really close friends, but you have this very long work collaboration.
Yeah. Well, we're not friends at all. I think we like each other better now than when we were 20 years old. I think maybe the 3 first films we made together, he had the feeling that I imposed these parts on him, and the last 2 films, maybe we shared the films more. The film in Tokyo and this one. What is strange to me is how great an actor he became, because he was already very interesting when I met him, but he was limited. And then when I made this little film in Tokyo, I hadn't seen him for 10 years or 15 years, I don't know. I saw in Tokyo that he had changed, and I thought he was ready to do anything. I think now he could play, any human emotions.
He was really remarkable in the film. I think we want to open up to some questions in the audience. So anybody who'd like to ask some questions? I can't see. Over there?
Do you have a favorite appointment or one that meant the most to you?
The question is, did he have a favorite appointment or one that meant the most to him?
What I said about Denis is not completely true, because obviously I imagined the film for Denis. All the films I've made with Denis, I couldn't have made them at all without Denis. When on my 3rd film he had an accident and the film was quite expensive, so the insurance said we have to change the actor, because I was not against it, except I couldn't do it. So, but when I imagined this film, there were two appointments. I thought Denis won't be able to do it right, and still I kept them, the one with his daughter and the one with his niece, the old man dying. But favorite appointments, and I guess maybe the one with Kylie Minogue, because it was very open. I didn't know who would play the woman, and it became musical, and I got to write a song with someone I thought, and I got to shoot in this place, which I always wanted to go into. They closed it 6 years ago, this big department store, which is very famous in France and Paris. And when I saw Denis and Kylie Minogue together, they're my size. We're not very tall. It's like if this couple existed before. It's like, it's and that's when I feel on the shoot. I always feel something is right if it feels like déjà vu, and that's the feeling I got after all this makeup and all this dressing them, and I felt when I saw them walk that they existed before the film, and the camera just, made them alive again.
How did you find Kylie Minogue?
Because one of the projects I didn't make was a film in London, and I couldn't find the female actress, and a friend in Paris told me about Kylie Minogue. I knew the name, but I didn't see who she was. And I remember that there was this singer that my friend had told me about. And I thought it would be interesting to have a singer. I mean, someone who could sing a song there. So we met, and I decided she was an angel I needed.
Anyone else? Over there?
I noticed a bunch of references to early cinema, but pretty significant moments that kind of demonstrate a different relationship with cinema, such as the Moyen Bridge images and the surrealist L'Entr'acte, which kind of shows a different relationship between art and reality. I was wondering what you kind of thought, what you think about our relationship to cinema today, and is this some kind of nostalgia toward how we used to kind of interact with moving image culture in the past?
Question is he noticed a lot of references to cinema, and he wondered what the relationship with this movie is to cinema, and is there some nostalgia for cinema in the past?
I don't think nostalgia. I mean, I obviously love cinema for reasons that almost don't exist anymore. But cinema has to reinvent itself all the time. That's so the primitive power of cinema is, it's happened already in the history of cinema. It had to be. So that's our job. I mean, the work is to find this power again, whether it's silent films and talking films and whatever, and today digital. And so it's not nostalgia. It's just like I can't forget where I come from. I can't forget, where cinema, what cinema is for me. And I try in my way to reinvent this power.
In the back there?
Yeah, probably just a wild idea, but your names were quite fascinating. How about Theo? I made an association with Theo Van Gogh, who had his throat cut in Amsterdam by a fanatic.
Your question?
Is that too wild?
Nothing's too wild, but Theo is was the name of my dog, but it's also the name of my company, my film company, and it's the name. And so I thought I don't have a brother, but if I had a brother, I would call him Theo.
What would you cut his throat? Over here?
There's just the acknowledgement to Henry James. And I wondered if there was a specific novel or story or something more general.
The question is the references to Henry James. I think there was some Beast in the you talked about in the past Beast in the Jungle, and also there's another reference.
Well, the English film I didn't do was Beast in the Jungle, but in this film, it's the scene with the old man dying is taken from Portrait of a Lady. A scene between Isabella and her cousin.
Over there?
I have two questions. One about whether or not the roles ever end. I mean, are you postulating that all we do is play roles in life, that life is cinema? And secondly, I would love for you to talk about the last scene with the apes and where that idea came from.
The two questions are, do the roles ever end? And the last scene with the apes. Where that comes from.
The roles ever end that I don't know. In this world, I don't know. It's. Oh, I'm tired. No, I feel very alive when I make a film, and I feel dead when I talk about films. And in real life, I never talk about cinema, except with my dogs sometimes. So suddenly, it's always very violent to talk, to try to. It's not fair to try to answer when I know I don't have the answers, but I see it as I said, as a kind of science fiction, and like hopefully good science fiction film, it's about reality. So, what is reality? Can we still face it? What is experience? What is action? Do we still want action? Which means responsibility. So this film questions that, but I don't know what answers it gives, really, I don't know. And about the apes at the end, I knew he was going to come to a new home with it wouldn't be the same family that in the beginning. I just couldn't find who it would be. I started casting, and I thought, since the film is a bit, there are other animals in the film, and I started to see it as a kind of solidarity between the men, the machines, and the animals against the virtual world. So I like apes, so I put them there.
Well, on that note, I think unfortunately we are out of time, so thank you for coming tonight. Thank you, Leo.
Merci.